I'm back.
Thank you. Eric? Yeah, I see you. Tanya?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great. Appreciate it, everybody. So, calling to order the open meeting here. As I said, January 17th BOT meeting. Randa, would you please take the roll?
Mayor Billy,
Here?
Mayor Pro Tem Hold,
Here.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Muted.
okay,
I
you're
just heard the end of that.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yeah, here.
Trustee Severs.
Here.
Thank you very much. We are going to go into consent agenda now. We have 3 items: the approval of the January 3rd and January 10th BOT minutes, and then a proclamation celebrating Black history, uplifting the community through the world of art. Miranda, anything you need to get specific on with these?
No, were you going to read the proclamation into?
Thank you.
And then I think we have a Catherine. I was just going to look if we have Catherine Orleans on.
That's
who's
what
going
I
to
was.
say a few words, but I don't know. Catherine, if you're on the phone, you'll have to press *6 to unmute yourself.
Give her a little more time. And if Catherine joins us after she does, then I just need to read. I am to read the 2-page resolution. Right, Brenda?
We should probably vote on it first, right?
Yeah. Once
I'm-
once it's voted on, then the request is that you read it officially into the record.
Okay, cool. So once we move through the consent agenda and vote on it, assuming it's approved, then I read it. Okay, great.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
All
Miranda,
right.
please.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
Mayor Billy.
Yes. Thank you. Catherine, hit *6 if you're talking and we're not hearing you. I can go ahead and read the resolution. Let me make it a little bigger. A resolution 2023-07. Resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Nederland, Colorado, proclaiming February as Black History Month. Whereas the month of February has received national recognition as Black History Month, and whereas in 2017, the Boulder branch of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, was established in Boulder with the purpose of promoting civic engagement, eradicating racial prejudice, and eliminating racial discrimination in education, employment, housing, civil rights, and whereas the Boulder County branch of the NAACP is celebrating its annual Freedom Fund, a longstanding tradition that brings together NAACP members and community supporters to raise funds to support the operations of our local branch. The Boulder County branch of the NAACP is dedicated to upholding the mission of equality and justice for all, as championed by the NAACP since its founding in 1909. And whereas educating and fostering a sense of community, inclusive and respectful of all, is needed to affect understanding and facilitate positive change. And whereas the arts have always been an important expression of Black culture, shared and emulated worldwide, and whereas African American musicians are underrepresented in formal assemblies despite a deep musical tradition, including aerophones, flutes, reed pipes, trumpets, and horns rooted in the bounty of the African landscape. Whereas the Boulder County branch of the NAACP is honored to extend an invitation to all to attend a performance by the premier Nashville African American Wind Symphony, an ensemble comprised of 65 Black musicians, music educators, and professionals on February 19th, 2023, during the annual Freedom Fund at Mackey Auditorium on the University of Colorado's Boulder campus. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Town of Nederland, Boulder, Boulder County, Colorado, that the month of February 2023 as celebrating Black history, uplifting the community through the world of art. Thank you. One. Catherine, by chance, have you joined us? All right. So I'll go back to, we'll move on then from consent agenda to public comment on non-agenda items. We have one public comment that Kathleen Chipai had sent to us that is in the packet. And then we want to open this up now to the public. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Prior to providing comment, please state your name and indicate whether or not you're a Nederland resident. And then if not a resident, just let us know your affiliation with town. So please speak up or raise your hands. We're all virtual here. Give it a couple minutes.
Is this the 3-minute portion for non-agenda items?
Yeah, you got it, Jim. This is public comment and non-agenda items.
Ron Mitchell.
All right, great. I have something if I'm not cutting anybody off.
Go for it, Jim. You spoke up first.
Okay. Sorry I'm late. I just rushed back from the community center after realizing nobody was down there. But I'm going to give you the bottom line up front. I'd like to have you take this time, since we had, and reconsider taking a pause on hiring a marshal and trying to stand up our police department, and reconsider the benefits of contracting with Boulder County Sheriff's Department for policing. That's my bottom line up front. The information that goes along with that is, now is the perfect time to reevaluate that. We seem like we were kind of on a track for that right now, and I do not feel like the people in the community had a true understanding of what would come along with the policing if we contracted with Boulder County. I do not feel like information was really put out there well. I got a community survey about whether or not we needed to have special parking and pump tracks and things like that in the past, but this is a pretty critical piece to the future of our town, both financially and how our town is going to look going forward. So I would say that, and I'll give you the reasons that I think that it would be great of the BOT to put out some more information, take a minute to pause on that and go and look at the pros and cons of contracting with Boulder County and putting that out into the community, and then doing a community survey. I believe the rising costs of law enforcement is going to outpace the resources for our small town going forward. We've just recently gone with wage parity with Denver, but if you're looking nationally at what the law enforcement environment is, it's going to continue to be harder and harder for people to do this job. And in 3 years, when Denver raises their prices for what they can pay, I do not believe that our small town is going to be able to raise our prices to keep pace with Boulder and Denver and these larger departments. The cost of recruiting, verifying, vetting, training, certification, equipment, and management and oversight of a police department for a community of our size, I think is too small. It is too much, too great for us to bear. Now is, I think, the time to really check with Lyons and some of the other communities that are getting service and find out what the downsides might be to having that. But I think I've seen some stuff put out on Facebook from Miranda, our town manager, about I thought I saw a number of 30 hours required for each position that we try to recruit for. Not to mention that with our tiny town staff, basically our HR department of one, you're putting a huge burden of not only recruiting and vetting them, but then managing that department going forward. So as my time expires here, I'm just going to ask that you take this moment right now while we have nobody hired and no salaries committed, to relook at this, take a pause. Our town didn't fall apart over the last 6 months while we didn't have any policing. So that's what I have. That's my time. Thank you.
Mayor Billy, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate your comment. Sorry about that. Appreciate your comment. And Ron, I think you were also had spoken. You have comment
I
on
just
the
want to
agenda
take
item.
some time to thank the streets department for moving a giant pile of snow on First and Snyder, pushing it down into my retention pond. They piled it at that corner for years. When it melts, it runs into my neighbor's basement, makes him really mad. He's been blaming me for it for years. So I asked the guys to push it into the retention pond, and they did, and I wanted to say thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Appreciate it. Anyone else have any comments on non-agenda items?
Yes.
Okay,
Hello?
go ahead. Kathleen? Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, I missed, who was speaking first? They didn't identify themselves or,
Jim Reese, of Nederland.
okay. Okay, thank you. Now I'd like to do my public comment. The purpose of the Nederland Municipal, Kathleen Chipeye, 31-year resident of East Magnolia and 19-year business owner. The purpose of the Nederland Municipal Code has been hijacked unlawfully from the code. It has been unlawfully replaced with language now commonly referred to as the safety clause, language that is the reason and excuse given for the passage of almost every ordinance in at least the last decade for the good, benefit, and safety of the residents. For years, Admin Miranda Fisher, then as clerk in 2020 through 2022, and ex-mayor Chris Larson from 26 to 2022 certified the unlawfully manipulated language as legitimate. This is what Fisher and Larson certified in January 2022 and what Muni Code says today. Section 1-2 purpose, the Board of Trustees finds, determines, and declares that the ordinance codified in this chapter is necessary for the general health, safety, and welfare of the community. Citation Ordinance 435-1996. This citation Ordinance 435-1996 is the check and balance provided we the people. The language in the code by law is supposed to perfectly match the ordinance language, yet the language that has been being certified for years cannot be found anywhere in Ordinance 435-1996. The Muni Code should say what the sign stamped ordinance and 435 found at Town Hall says, which is, the purpose of the Nederland Municipal Code is to codify the ordinances of the town of Nederland, which are of a general and permanent nature. The subject matter of the Nederland Municipal Code includes general provisions concerning the application and interpretation of the code, the administration, personnel, and organization of the town government, revenue and finance, franchises and communication systems, business license and regulations, health, sanitation and animals, vehicles and traffic, general offenses, streets, sidewalks, and public property, municipal utilities, annexation, zoning, subdivisions, and building regulations. Notice how the purpose unlawfully went from the general check and balance oversight and regulation of all operations and aspects of the municipality, including the administration, personnel, and organization of the town government, to no general check and balance oversight and regulation of all operations and aspects of the municipality, excluding the administration, personnel, and organization of the town government. We seem to have changed course from a constitutional republic with accountability to a more authoritarian rule with no accountability for the administration and personnel. FYI, this isn't an isolated incident of unlawfully manipulated NMC language. This is just the most ironic, being the purpose of the NMC, and easy to explain since 1-2 of the NMC has only one ordinance citation. Most of Chapter 1 of the NMC cites Ordinance 435 and only Ordinance 435, and yet 435 is only 5.5 pages long and doesn't contain the language the clerk and the mayor are certifying as coming from ordinance 435. As I write this,
Thanks,
the Muni
Kathleen.
Code shows ordinance 435 being cited 302 times in the MMC. Go figure. What do people think about this fraud? And
Thanks,
do
Kathleen.
people
We've
think
run over
that
time.
mayor and clerk should certify unlawful language in the MMC for 2023?
Kathleen, we have run over
When
time.
we have a
and
serious problem
this
with
is
our
posted
foundation.
in the agenda, which is great. We can read it there.
You can have my remaining 2 minutes.
Oh, thanks, Ron. Saw your hand. Kathleen, if you want to finish up, Ron gave you, you just really have the one.
Have to
one, 2 items.
unmute star 6.
Okay, I would like to finish. Thank you, Ron. I don't like being interrupted, and I believe that Jim Reese just went over his 3 minutes. This isn't an isolated incident of unlawfully manipulated NMC language. This is the most ironic, being the purpose of the NMC, and easy to explain since 1-2 of the NMC has only one ordinance citation. Most of Chapter 1 of the NMC cites Ordinance 435 and only Ordinance 435, and yet 435 is only 5.5 pages long and doesn't contain the language the clerk and the mayor are certifying is coming from Ordinance 435. As I write this, the Muni Code shows Ordinance 435 being cited 302 times in the NMC. Go figure. What do people think about this fraud? And do people think the current clerk and mayor should certify unlawful language in the MMC for 2023, knowing we have a serious problem with our foundational documents and record? And I also want to say that if the town's not going to be open for these meetings, according to the website, and this is not the first time, Jim Reese apparently just drove to town hall because nowhere does it say we're not meeting physically. And 2 weeks ago, another friend I know went and drove to town hall and no one was there also. So we need the clerk, the computer person, whoever it is, to identify when the town hall will be open for the meetings and when it will not. Thank you.
Thanks for your, thanks for your letter and reading your letter and comments. And Ron, thanks for giving her the extra time. Appreciate it. Any other public comments on non-agenda items? Okay. So we'll go ahead and close the public comment on non-agenda items part of our meeting tonight and move into informational items. I think this aim will be introduced by Rita, who's going to introduce somebody else named Bob.
Yes. Well, I hope Bob is on. I am not seeing him unless he's a call-in. Yes. Anyway, Rita Six, Town Treasurer. Good evening, Mayor, trustees, members of the public. Bob Krug contacted me last year regarding to see if town is interested in investing some of our funds into CSAFE. And so if Bob is on, I will let him take over.
Oh, there he is. I'd say I do see.
Oh, hey. Investing in what? I apologize. I couldn't hear that last part of what the investment was in. I'm sorry.
Can you just read that last sentence there, Rita, and then Bob, you can take the mic after
Yes,
that.
Andrew, I was just saying that Bob had contacted me last year regarding town investing some of our funds into some of the CSAFE. And Bob will talk more about that, what the options are for town.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rita.
Yes.
Bob?
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I happen to be driving, so apologize for coming in a little bit late. So CSAFE stands for Colorado Surplus Asset Fund Trust. We've been a trust that is regulated by the state of Colorado since 1988. I've been fortunate to represent CSAFE since 1997 in participant relations and marketing. We work with over 450 local governments throughout Colorado that are comprised of towns, cities, counties, school districts, and special districts. We currently manage 2 funds that are rated AAA. Cash is basically a money market fund. You have access to funds coming in and out on a daily basis. Colorado Core, which is designed for funds that are spent over, let's say, a 3 to 12 month period, is also liquid with just a 1-day notification. It was started in 2018 and has been one of the highest yielding funds ever since its inception. It can invest out to 3 years versus 1 year with cash. Right now, it's currently yielding about 4.54, and it basically follows the Fed funds rate, if you will. And as we all know, the Fed has been very aggressive in that area. We'll learn at the end of January if they raise again and how much. But let's just say if they raise 25 basis points, we will catch up to that within about a 30-day period. So those are the 2 funds I mentioned were overseen by the state of Colorado. For every dollar that goes into CSAFE, it's 100% collateralized by the underlying investments, which are also state managed and controlled. Any questions up to this point?
I have a question. This is Rita. Hi,
Hey,
Bob.
Rita.
Question for you. Is there a setup fee with
No.
either of those?
No, there is not.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And then another question, I would imagine with either of those, and I do see one of them is 100,000 minimum.
Right.
But regardless, let's just say if the town needed those funds, that it would be very simple to transfer from your account back into our accounts. And I see
Yes.
that on the core one, we get 3 transactions, I believe, per month.
That's correct. You could have up to 3 withdrawals.
Okay.
And we've always made exceptions. The only reason that the investment advisor put that in there was so that people wouldn't treat it like the cash fund or a money market fund. Other than that, both funds have plenty of liquidity. In fact, they have about between 15 and 20% of the fund balance liquid. And both funds are about $2.5 billion in pooled assets. So they have roughly 400 million in liquidity. On any given day, when we net out the deposits and the withdrawals, it ends up being like 1%, just to give you an idea.
Okay, so let's just say if we were to invest $1 million, let's just go with the core fund. And we would tell you, for a year, let's just say 12 months. Okay.
And you're not locking in anything, just so you know.
What do you mean by that?
So even though we have a ladder of underlying investments, your investments are completely liquid.
Okay. Okay, because my next question was if I invest for, let's just say 12 months, but we were to withdraw funds, would we be penalized? And I'm hearing you say that's a no.
No, there's no penalty whatsoever.
Okay, one other question. I don't understand what that means, up to 180-day weighted maturity. I don't understand that language.
Very good question. So when you have a ladder of investments, and these are all either a floating rate or in most cases, it's a term investment. So think of a CD, and we do buy negotiable or securitized CDs. As those are put into place with the portfolio, there's a mathematical algorithm that determines what the average maturity of the portfolio is. So the term weighted is just a a money market term or a portfolio term, but essentially the fund cannot have its investments exceed a 6-month average maturity. And what that would mean is if you could picture securities from 1 month out to, let's say, 18 months, it would be more heavily weighted on the shorter spectrum of the portfolio, which is basically saying most of the investments are 6 months or shorter.
You know, I just lost connection, so I missed a lot of that, but
Oh, okay.
I will listen to the audio.
Yeah, no worries. I'll repeat it. It's basically like the average maturity of the portfolio. Let's say it has 50 securities, and most of them are fixed rate, very similar to a CD. Let's say if the fund has CDs from 1 month out to 12 months, and even out to 18 months. And as I mentioned, we could even have a 3-year security. The average of the maturities of those securities cannot exceed 6 months.
Okay.
But you're getting the bet.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's okay.
Yeah, that was what the questions I had.
Okay. Did that help? Did that make more sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Rita. I appreciate you actually asking most of the questions on this, and I would also like to open it up to the trustees now. Anyone has any specific questions?
Looks like Ron's hand is up too.
This is not a public comment item.
Okay.
Quick question. Just looking at the other side of this, Rita, I address this to you. Is there any reason we wouldn't do this?
I don't think so. In other words, I reached out to our bank today to find out what we are getting. And because it's nowhere to be seen, and it's 0.20% on our, we have 2 money market accounts. So obviously right there, you know, I think we should. We just need to decide how much we want to invest. That's something, you know, that's the only thing I feel like we need to decide on is how much money do we want to invest. And I don't see any issues why we wouldn't.
If I may just mention one other thing, Rita, did you happen to pass on some of the references that I gave you?
A long time ago, you mean? Last year?
Oh, is that last year? Okay.
You mean the different entities, the different governments?
Right.
I did not.
Okay.
I can forward that email.
Would anybody like just a variety of some towns and communities we work with?
For me, it would be helpful.
Yes.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Okay.
Send to the BOT, I would say.
Okay.
At least.
So just thinking off the top of my head, kind of north, the town of Estes Park. County-wise, we do work with Boulder County, Larimer County, Gilpin County, town of Meade, town of Berthoud. Just thinking along the thing there, town of Dacono, Frederick, Firestone, Windsor. On a larger scale, city of Loveland, city of Fort Collins. I'm just kind of thinking regionally where you guys are, but we work with lots of communities throughout the whole state, big and small.
Do you want to just send that email to me, Bob, and then I can forward it to the board? That might be easiest for you.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. I'll do that tomorrow.
Great, appreciate that.
Sure.
This is Tanya. I have a question. Which is the fund that is recommended, the C-Safe Cash Fund or the Colorado Core Fund?
If that's for me, I've suggested to to Rita and Miranda, the core fund, because these are considered, you know, let's say savings for the town. I'll give you an idea of who uses cash more than core. It would be some of the school districts we work with, where they get their funds coming in on a monthly basis, either from the state or from property tax. And then they will in turn, at the end of the month, take out, you know, a good portion of that just for payroll and major expenses. That's not to say that you couldn't use core like that either. Typically, the way a lot of towns and cities use us, they'll keep maybe 2 to 3 months at the most. And in your case, if you're getting 0, you could definitely just do 2 months of operating. And then as that draws down, you could just bring it in from core and refund your operating account, your bank operating.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions from the trustees?
Hey, Bob, thanks for the presentation and for coming and talking to us. It's really appreciated and informative. And
oh, you're so welcome. My
what
pleasure.
About a quick question for you. What, if any, experience do you have with some of the other towns and municipalities utilizing their financial position with you guys for building credit or somehow possibly securing a credit line?
Well,
and
we
just
don't...
kind of additional financial services that some of these other governments may be using with you guys or independently of you guys too, if you know about anything. Just curious.
So, yeah, so I appreciate that question. We, our mandate by the state only allows us to be a holder of funds. We do not lend out, so therefore we're not in a position of issuing credit or that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We fall under
you know,
the Division of Securities as opposed to banking.
Gotcha. Do you know if that is a financial position that other towns or government entities have used as collateral on other loans or financial, moves that they may want to make, or securing a credit line, for example?
Not that I know of. We have been in a position to be a custodian of funds for, like, if somebody wanted to set up an escrow account for the purchase of land or something down the road, but not in terms of borrowing money.
Mm-hmm. Any downside from your side, from your point of view, to just putting any liquid assets minus what you mentioned, the 2 months operating expenses with you guys? Or
And are you asking the fellow trustees that?
no, I'm asking you, and then obviously, any trustees can certainly chime in on that too.
Oh, sure. No, I mean, there wouldn't be any downside because you're not tying up your money with us.
Mm-hmm. And just getting better returns on money that's sitting idle.
Yes, exactly.
Not a bad thing. Yeah.
No. So you're just, let's say if you stick with $1 million, you'll be looking at getting about 45,000 this year, if not more, over a 12-month period.
Wow.
Wow.
So how much assets could we potentially put with Bob, Rita?
Well, so the total right now that we have in our bank is 5.4 million. Of that, restricted funds is 1.3 million. So we have available about 4.1 million. And obviously I would have to do some math here, but I would say at least $1 million. But that's something, we need to discuss.
but potentially 4 million if we have, you know, if it's still a liquid account for us, and we're getting a better return, and then 45,000 times 4 is some amount,
Yeah.
180,000.
Yeah, but what I don't want to do is, obviously we have check runs every 2 weeks. I don't want to have to go, worry about
Move
making
it
sure we
around
have
too
enough
much,
funds. So whatever we decide on, I want to leave enough in our checking account, right? That we don't have to worry about that. So right now in our checking account alone, so we have 2 money market accounts, and one of those is the restricted funds. Just in our account alone, we have 2.7 million. So we could easily, that would be the account I'd say let's, use to transfer over to them. 1.7 million. I don't know how much I want to leave in that account. 1 million. That's just something we need to decide on.
I gotcha. How easy is it, Bob, to transfer money back and forth from the account that Rita's writing checks out of to our holding account with you guys?
So we have an online portal. It's securitized. Rita can go in there. She can put in a request, whatever amount, and it will be sent the next day through US Bank. So that's who the funds come in and out of with CSafe. And we set up a repeat code for your Nederland bank, and that's where it will go into.
And just to remind everybody, if we go with core, and you did mention that's not really set in stone, but we would get 3 transactions per month. So I also want to just be careful to leave enough funds in our checking account to not go over that amount.
And the other thing you could think of, Rita, you could still open up an account in each fund, which a lot of entities do. So hypothetically, if you did the million, you could put 250 to 300 in cash, put the rest in core, because the rate difference is only between 5 and 10 basis points at this point.
I see that, yeah.
So
That's a
you're
good
not
idea.
going to, you're not going to be giving up anything. And if that gives you a greater deal of comfort of just knowing, hey, I can get money even today, that'd be my suggestion.
That's a good idea. In other words, of the 2.7 million, we could invest maybe everything, but 500,000, and put some of that into the cash one that allows us to, withdraw as often as we'd like. Okay.
Exactly. And you can also shift money from core to cash any day as well.
Which would count as one of those transactions, I would imagine, right?
It would just count as one, but again, if you would like to use, I'll just say CSafe in general more to maximize the return on these funds, then just keep a little bit more in cash.
I understand.
So whatever you feel comfortable with, and maybe, once you are in it and you've moved money after the first couple months, that'll probably give you a good feeling of just how efficient you can utilize that account.
Okay.
And is there no minimum balance on the cash?
There is not. And even if going back to core, if for whatever reason, if you went below 100, we're not going to close the account.
Thanks.
I have a question about just putting a lot of money in there. I mean, what's the risk? I know we had a good meeting last week with DDA and got a lot of good information. Talked about, there's and this could be totally unrelated, but like $250,000 FDI insured, and then Colorado has another insurance on top of that. But if we're throwing millions into this,
Sure.
Is this the place to put all the money, or should we be putting it in different places in case something very unexpected happens?
So I can share 30 years, no one has lost any principal. account holder is Jefferson County Schools. They keep 300 million for their primary sweep account. And we have fewer entities that have those size of deposits. I would say the average town size that would be similar to yours keeps between 5 and 10 million. And again, it's a 1-for-1 dollar. So right now, your funds over the FDIC limit with your bank are collateralized at the state level. So that bank has to set aside their securities, which would be very similar to what we are holding with the state, in order to guarantee those funds above 250. So you're a lien holder with the bank should something happen to them. With CSAFE, you're an undivided owner of the underlying investment. You're not a lien holder.
Okay.
This is more secure in many
Yes.
respects.
The whole
But
FDI insurancing is kind of irrelevant.
It is
Okay.
similar from a collateralization standpoint. So in a sense, you're kind of doing that with your bank right now, and obviously not getting too much for it. But with CSAFE, it's a dollar for dollar collateralization, 100%. And of course, you're getting the interest. And you're not tying up money. If you were to look at, let's say, doing some CDs, number one, you'd be fortunate to get 4.5%, and then you're tying up all your money. So that's the beauty of the pool. When the state put the pool concept together back in 1985, it was to give smaller governments, especially, more choice. So that's kind of the beauty of the whole concept.
Yeah, and I also did find out that our bank does offer now, just for comparison, what Bob just said, a CD for 3.5% for 18 months. However, they will charge 6 months of interest. They would deduct that for early withdrawal. So just for comparison reasons. Hey, Bob, is it really true? Is 45,000 right? Did you do that right? $45,000 of interest in 1 year?
Per million.
Yes, for $1 million, that should be. I'm just going off the top of my head. So, 10% would be 100,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah,
So 4.5. Yeah, 4.5% would be 45. If we get to 5%, then you're looking at 50,000, at least for the remainder of the year, and then going into next year.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I just calculated per month. Okay, that makes sense. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's annually.
Wow, that's amazing. That sounds incredible.
Yes. Bob,
Yes,
is
it's
there
been
any,
a long time coming.
Bob, again, with all due respect, do you have competitors, like, other than, a CD at the bank, like what Rita said? Is there any similar groups as yours? Or,
Yes.
guys...
So there are 3 other, what were called local government investment pools. Trust is one. And our rates are pretty much on top of each other. And the next one is called CSIP, and they've been out 3 years. So they're a very new pool, a lot smaller.
Yeah.
We're managing.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
So yes.
And I believe Jesse, Trust, and Trustee Coombs Ismail might remember that. Trust, I believe, came and talked to us a couple of years ago, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Any differentiators off the top of your head between the various of your
They're
peers?
very, yeah, we're pretty much on top of each other. The main reason for that is because we're all keeping intentionally short until the Fed finishes raising rates. And then there's not going to be a whole lot more difference from Fed funds in cash. But once that happens, the Morgan Stanley portfolio team will stretch out the investments in core. And that'll even lead the other pools all that much more.
We have a downtown development authority district. Is this something that they can make use of as well?
They can, and yes. And we just opened one up for the Castle Rock Downtown Authority. The reason that they can do it, because most likely they're a 501c3, is the fact that they have an intergovernmental agreement with you. So those funds are considered still.
So how about other districts, fire district? I mean, I don't know what kind of liquidity people
Yeah,
have.
fire districts.
Library
we have
districts,
we have a lot of fire districts as well.
library district. I mean, yeah, it's not like they got millions kicking around.
Yes, library, all of
district.
those. Yes.
Districts. Thanks. Yeah, any other questions from the trustees? If not, Bob, thank you so much for your time, and I hope keep driving safe there. And hope well, appreciate your time, and it's good information. And Rita, thank you for great questions.
I guess I have a question. If we did want to move forward on something like this, what would be our next step as a board, or would the staff just do that on their own? What would be our next step to move something forward?
You would have
Rita. Yeah. Well, go ahead, Bob, and then Rita. I'll let you both.
Yeah, you would just have to. Oh, go ahead, Rita. I think I gave you the paperwork, didn't I?
Nope, you did not.
Oh, okay. So
you
can approve us in your minutes, and then I would send a model resolution that has kind of state language for the president's signature, but it's basically approval at a board meeting, essentially.
Yeah, it's Miranda. I just wanted to know that it would need to come back to you as an action item.
Yeah, so I can get you that paperwork for the next meeting, Rita and Miranda.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Thanks, Bob. Have a great night. Drive safe.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay.
So that closes our informational item section of the meeting, and we're going to move into action items. We have 2 action items tonight. The first one is on the trustee vacancy, and Miranda.
Okay, so this is regarding the trustee vacancy that was left when Trustee Blakemore had submitted her resignation, which was on December 3rd. Per Colorado Revised Statute 314303, the Board of Trustees can decide if you want to fill the vacancy through appointment or ordering a special election. So just from clarification, because it's not clear in the aim, the Board of Trustees will either need to appoint by the 60-day mark, which is February 1st, or that would automatically kind of trigger an election. And so you can also choose to decide tonight which direction you want to go. But if the decision is to go appointment, we would need to schedule a special meeting between now and February 1st for that appointment to happen. Just a quick reminder, we did originally put this out for appointment. The Board of Trustees put it out on December 6th. We received 1 application. During the meeting, it was a tie vote, so the motion failed and therefore there was no appointment. So tonight we really need to know, how would you like to fill this vacancy, through appointment or election? And if it is through appointment, how would you like to handle the releasing of requests for application? And when will you hold your special meeting?
Thanks so much, Miranda, and thanks for clarifying that. I know I had read an email that kind of talked about the fact that we either have to appoint by the 1st, or we have to move to election, and then we got a little conflicting information a couple weeks ago, but thanks for clarifying that today. That, as you said, just to be clear, we have to either appoint someone by or before the 1st of February, or we are bound to an election. So tonight we will decide which of those two routes we want to go. And then if we go appointment, our timeline for closing the applications and having we'd have to have a special meeting and to interview and appoint. So first clarifying questions from the trustees. Then we'll go to public comment. Are there any clarifying questions?
Yeah, so Billy, so we do actually have to have the person appointed, if I was just listening correctly. We have to have the person appointed before the 60 days is up. Otherwise, we get kicked to election by automatic.
Yeah, I think as the law reads, and I'm a little off, but more or less it says if we haven't appointed by 60 days, then it moves to an election. And really that just ensures that, you know, a board doesn't sit on it on purpose or something. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, I think, as you guys know, I was really torn on the last vote, and since then I talked to Bob, John Mountain, and I told him, hey, you know, I just wasn't convinced that you really want the job, and so I couldn't in good faith vote for you on there. So if you really want the job, you need to tell me point blank. And so I called him again. He said he was thinking about it some more. He was that I was spot on, and that he was doing some more work. And it sounds to me like he does want the job, and he's planning to apply. I told him, if you apply again, you know, obviously that answers my question, and I'll vote for you. So, yeah, that's and I think had Tom been there or some of the other trustees been there, he would have gotten voted on. It was just that, you know, like I said, I just couldn't in good faith vote for him at the moment because of I wasn't convinced. So, or Eric, if Eric had been there, maybe Eric would have voted for him. He would have had the votes. So I just gotta say that.
Thank you.
I think he would be a good trustee, and I would enjoy working with him. But
so we're in an action item. Do you want to make a motion, or do we need further discussion?
We got more stuff to steps to get through. We want to hear from people, clarifying questions, sure. Public comment, and then we come back to that part of the item.
Yeah, I'd love to bring this in for an appointment, and if we don't get any applicants, then we have no choice but to go to an election. So I hope we get more applicants. I really hope that everybody who's remotely interested in what's going on in this town steps up and helps us be this board. It was pretty disappointing. We only had one guy. As you know, I was willing to give him a chance. There's nobody on this board right now who is the perfect person for this job, who has all the time in the world. And so.
Any other clarifying questions?
One clarifying question. If we wanted to make a motion to appoint tonight, could we do that tonight?
Yes, you can.
I'll make a comment now. I was going to wait till later, but I do know of someone who intends to apply, and I think Nicole knows of at least one or two people. So I believe that would be premature.
Oh.
I'd rather have a pool to pick from personally, but I think any other clarifying questions before we go to public comment? Okay, so let's go ahead and open up for public comment. If anyone would like to make a comment regarding BOT vacancy, you have 3 minutes.
I'd like to make public comment.
Sure, Kathleen.
Kathleen Chip, 31-year resident of East Magnolia, 19-year business owner. So I believe that this is all premature because the vote to appoint already took place. I don't think that needs to occur again whatsoever. And then we had a 2-2 tie. So John Mountain was never voted down. And I missed the meeting, but I had assumed that it was because the board doesn't like appointments, and there was only 4 people attending that meeting. So as was just said, I believe by Jesse Sievers, there had been another member of the board there, John would have been appointed. I don't believe taking another round of applications is fair at this point until we have an up or down vote on John. People had 21 days back in December to apply. Here we have another willing participant in what just occurred. You just lost 2, David Seitz and Riley, through how it was handled in 2022. And we just keep, seems to me, bashing down and taking away people's rights to the positions that they signed up for. I would like an appointment vote tonight, up or down. If John gets voted down, then you can take, I think, fairly take new applications. I think it's completely unfair to be saying that it's time to take new applications now because it was a 2-2 vote when there were only 4 members on the board. I mean, this is outrageous in my opinion, and I don't even know the guy who applied, but I'm just gonna say, if it was me, and you guys decided tonight that you were gonna take 21 more days or even 1 more day of applicants because someone has now reconsidered that, wow, maybe this guy, they don't like this guy, so maybe they're going to apply now. They didn't apply back in December. This is disheartening once again, and once again, to me, looks as if the people who are trying to participate and get involved are being discouraged to, in a very, that's a friendly terminology for what's going on for me. So that's my public comment. I think there should be a vote on Mr. Mountain tonight since it looks like, I think all the board members are there. So let's see what happens, up or down. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathleen.
Well, just a response, Kathleen, we're missing Nicole, but at least we would have 1 more than what we had back then.
Correct. Thank you for
But the way
responding.
it is now, when it's a tie vote, which couldn't happen tonight, the noes win tie votes. So,
I understand that, Tanya, and I appreciate you explaining that, but he didn't lose, okay? It was 2-2.
Yeah, well,
It's 2-2.
Yeah,
well, yeah,
I
except-
agree.
I mean, I agree. Like, that's why we need to get another person, because with 6 people, we've run into this many times where the noes win, and it's just like, wow, okay,
Tanya, with
How about
all due
can we
respect,
stick with public comment here, guys?
Yeah.
Well, I thought there's 3 minutes to ask questions.
Is there?
Oh yeah, that hasn't come to pass since I've been in this seat, but I do remember that Julian and company putting that on board. Yes,
I thought that's what Tanya was
I'm
just.
cool with that. Thank you. Go ahead and hit the timer. Yes, thanks.
Clarifying what happened on the last meeting for people who weren't there.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, Tom, go ahead.
You say you have a candidate who might want to apply. The deadline was several weeks ago.
Yes.
And so if we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 here tonight, so we need 3 to carry to a deadlock, right?
Five here tonight.
5 here tonight, so 3 would carry it. 2 would not. And so I would move to go to nominate John Mountain tonight to join this.
Okay, again, I think this isn't really asking her questions. We are still public comment. No, I mean,
okay, so we need 3. We would need 3 votes tonight to carry. Yes, accurate.
Yeah, just the majority of the trustees present.
Okay, I'm done.
Thanks. No, good one, but we'll come back to that for sure. Go ahead if we can hear some public comments. If anyone have any on the subject.
Andrew, I would just, not knowing, and I haven't necessarily done as much research on John Mountain. However, I do agree that extending a deadline, when there's a deadline that's been open, and regardless if it's a position for or if it's for example a bid due date and construction, when something comes and it really should be closed, and the people were willing to get what they needed to get in front of the decision makers, that should be kind of honored, and to move that seems not right in my book. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. That's a good metaphor. The bid date thing for contractors is a good one. Any other public comments on BOT vacancy?
Hey guys, this is John.
Hey,
Can
John.
you hear me okay? I'm fairly remote right now.
You sound really
Talking over
clear.
satellite.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome. Hey, I really appreciate, the comments, and I just want to clarify a few things. The two board of trustee members who weren't sure definitely had valid points. The seriousness and the gravity of the position hadn't really been as clear to me until I'd understood the former person whose seat is now vacant, just the amount of work that she'd put in and the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that she'd put into this role. I volunteer at Ignite Adaptive Sports, and I volunteer at the fire department. My cup's pretty full. I do have a bit of time, but I just, I wasn't 100% sure if I'd be the right candidate. And so I think that both Nicole and Jesse picked up on that. And I think it was fair of them to, really represent the board as a, like we really need commitment sort of stance. So there's absolutely no feeling of, like I still am interested in the role, but I just have to clarify that, there was no contention or feeling of, my efforts being smacked down. So I just want to clarify that, but I'm still interested. Again, huge shoes to fill, and I don't necessarily know that I could get up to speed quickly or efficiently, and so that is a concern. So if there are people out there who have more experience with transportation, have more experience with the board of trustees and the current events and hot topics around town, I'm not opposed to listening to them come in and tell me that they're a better fit than I am. Right now I'm just getting up to speed as quickly as I can, and my hat's still in the ring, and I'm happy to help out if I can. But if I'm not a fit, there's absolutely no hard feelings whatsoever. I still love the town, and I'll still be joining these meetings. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Point of clarification, I'm taking on all of Karen's transportation duties. So I really would prefer you be out in front of the fire hose if necessary.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
okay. All right.
yeah,
That's good clarification.
Thanks, Tom, for doing that. And yeah, just to clarify, and I thought we had clarified that 2 weeks ago, but I'll say it again. Yeah, you are not expected to do, I mean, none of us, like, it's not like Karen had the set role, this trustee does this. That it's not expected that anyone who comes in this position does everything Karen does unless they want to. We will all, Tom put that up, voluntarily, and we will all fill in the gaps as we need to. So I have one clarifying question. If you want to set time for 3 minutes to go, what for John? Like, what's changed your mind? You still sound a little ambivalent to me. So what's up?
Thanks. Yeah, no, I appreciate the question, really. I definitely, I just realized the seriousness of this role. I've seen the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that you guys put into this. I've been watching, the backlog of readily available media out there that kind of helps me to get caught up to what the current events are. And there's a lot. There's just a heavy lift involved. I was originally intending about 5 to maybe 7 hours a week to dedicate to this. And I just don't know if that's realistic. You know, I have a background in running my own private business. I've never handled anything as large as a a town or a budget the size of what you guys are looking at. So I definitely feel I could be very helpful to the board, but I don't want to take a seat that should be designated to somebody more qualified. So that's an important role, and it's something that I take seriously. So I guess what I'm saying is my heart's in it, but I also realize that I may not be the perfect candidate for you guys. To round out the team well, I had a chance to talk with some, have some individual conversations, and it sounds to me like there's there are some special talents and skills that would really be helpful that I'd need to get up to speed on. So I think I've heard it said before that if you have one rower who's rowing the wrong direction and clacking oars with the other rowers, it slows everybody down and loses the race. And I realized that I'd be a pretty slow rower, at least at the beginning. But I'm willing to get up to speed on this. And I have more conversations to have for sure. Yeah. Again.
Oh, cool. I want to just use up this time. Any other questions from trustees to John, since we got 46 seconds left?
Not so much a question, but I just do appreciate, John, you being so forthright and honest and coming out tonight and speaking. I think that's really great and great context for everyone else to hear, that we're not making decisions here by the seat of our pants. Everyone is making careful and considered choices.
That said, none of us were perfect candidates coming in, and all of us got up to the speed, the level that we're at now. And I've no doubt that you could as well, John, if you're willing to step up.
We've all been the one rowing in the wrong direction at some point or another.
There's got to be a mountain allegory here somewhere.
Thank you. Do we have some more public comments on the BOT vacancy?
This is Dawn Baumhover, Nederland resident. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
Yeah, I'm just what I'm hearing from John is not that he is on the fence, but that he knows that he has a lot of homework to do. I, after listening to him tonight and a couple weeks ago, am confident that he can get up to speed as everyone does and has in the past that is appointed or elected to the board. And what I'm hearing is that he's a collaborator. So that's all. Thanks. Appreciate you guys. Tough decision. I'd say give him a chance tonight. And if it doesn't pass, then ask for more applicants. Thank you.
John, there's a rowing machine over at the rec center that comes with your being a board member.
Oh, good. So you mean I don't have to go buy my own? That's helpful.
Any other public comments on the BOT vacancy? Hearing none, unless I'm missing a hand up, I don't see any. Let's go ahead and bring it back. We'll close the public comment. We'll bring it back to the board for discussion.
Can I say something quick, Billy?
Yes, sir.
I wanted to clarify for everyone that I have no problem whatsoever with anybody motioning to appoint somebody to the BOT right now. I would be thrilled to get up to 7 members personally, so that is not the issue here. I just want to make it perfectly clear that there is no moral or ethical problem whatsoever with putting out another application call. It's well within our prerogative to do it. The narrative that somehow, because it was a 2-2 vote, that we are obligated in some way to vote again, that doesn't make any sense. We have it written in the law that a 2-2 vote is a no on the motion. So that's what it is. It didn't pass, and that's fine. It's fine if things don't pass, and you can always call for a motion again and vote again. which I'm fine doing as well, right? So that's how these things work. I just want to clarify that for everybody because people are kind of making up their own version of the law here and making up their own version of what is ethical or what is moral. It's not correct. So we ought to stop doing that.
That said, we put out the application period was quite public. It was open to anybody. The period closed. One guy put his hand up, and it's painful hitting tied votes. And I think this guy is eminently qualified, and I'd be honored to serve with him.
Thanks, Tom. And thanks, Eric. Jesse, Tanya, what do you thinking?
I'd go with either way. I'm happy. I mean, I voted for him once, so I'd vote for him again. I also could wait 2 weeks. But yeah, if we want to just do it right now, I was pretty disappointed at the last meeting that we were back where we were when we started that meeting, and to go through this again and another special meeting. And I get it. It's important. We want to find somebody who's going to commit. But, we're not filling anybody's shoes here, and we're all learning as we go. So, I'm saying, look, we can appoint him, and I'd be fine with that. Or we could wait 2 weeks, see who else turns up. So I'm not really helpful, am I? But
Yep,
at least you know how I feel.
helpful. I know how you feel. That's extremely helpful, actually. Jesse.
Yeah. So, I lost sleep after the vote that night, and I called John and told him, how I felt and why I voted, and something you said to me or said to the meeting, Billy, was actually something that really was ringing in my head, which was, it's not my job to second guess John. He's here. He can always drop out if that's the thing. You can do that. And also what everyone else has said, none of us are perfect. To John's point is, none of us are perfect. And there have been trustees all over the map since I've been a resident, and Ned, and some that I thought were great and some that, not so much. So it's like, that's just part of it. So I said to myself, if I had a chance to vote John on again, I would vote in favor. So that's where I'm at, and I see the merits of having a full board.
Okay. Any other discussion or comment? I think, any other discussion or comment? And I'll say one thing. I think if we are to move, and Jennifer, Miranda, make sure I'm going the right direction with this. If we are to move in this direction this evening, I think it's actually Jesse who came out on the prevailing side who has to make the motion to, was it rescind?
Is that true, Miranda?
That is why I'm asking Miranda.
That's a great question. And I'm going to turn
more
that
of a
to
Jennifer.
It doesn't have to be a motion to reconsider. You can just start with a brand new motion and move forward.
That was leftover, Billy, from the BZA discussion we had before, which is a quasi judiciary and slightly different circumstance. So I make a motion to bring John Mountain onto the board of trustees by appointment. Do we have a second?
Second.
Are we?
We have
second.
We do have a motion and a second on the
I'll do a
floor.
second.
Yeah, Jesse, give us a second. So, Miranda.
Okay, Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
Trustee Severs,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
No.
Trustee Corvalon.
Yeah.
So the motion passes, and John Mountain has been appointed to the BOT. And I think what has to happen is we have to swear John in, which will, correct me if I'm wrong, happen on February 7th.
Correct.
Or would it happen? Okay.
Yep,
Can't
February
happen
7th.
this evening.
Yeah, John, that'll be the day you'll take your oath, and we'll put on the consent agenda the resolution noting the appointment.
John, do you accept?
I do accept. One quick question. Does that rower machine, do I get to use that now for free? Is that
Only if you
part of
row
the
the
deal?
right direction. You're rowing the wrong direction. Don's kicking you out.
Yeah. Don,
All
you're gonna
right,
have to
thank you, guys.
supervise.
Yeah, I feel warmly welcomed. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for stepping up, John. Appreciate that.
Yes, thank you for stepping up. I voted for you the first time. Second time's more on principle, but I appreciate you stepping up.
John, there's a trick chair in the room. Make sure if you get there late, you're going to get stuck with it.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
So thank you, everyone. And with that, we are going to move to action item number 2. Sorry, the emergency moratorium ordinance for properties located in the central business district, central business district zone district. So Jennifer Madsen, could you lead us?
Good evening, Jennifer Madsen, Town Attorney. And before you tonight is legislative action to put in place a pause on processing applications, land use applications, including subdivision applications for properties in the central business district. The reason for the pause is to give the Board of Trustees, the Planning Commission, the DDA, affected property owners, and the public an opportunity to evaluate the town zoning code and subdivision regulations. And to make sure that the code and the subdivision regulations are aligned with the goals and visions for the central business district. This issue to evaluate and research the code has come to the attention of the town because of preliminary discussions with a property owner who was looking at a lot consolidation subdivision application. Moratoriums are generally recognized as an acceptable. The moratorium that is before you is a 6-month moratorium on the acceptance processing of applications for approval for properties in the CBD. It would include subdivision applications and special review use permits. It does not apply to business licenses, liquor licenses, marijuana licenses, or building permits. And one of the things that I wanted to make clear is that the town zoning code really hasn't been updated since 2008. Those were the last significant updates related to yard and bulk uses, and the major categories for the CBD, whereas there have been extensive other planning documents that identify significant goals for the community, such as the comprehensive plan. There was a 2013 update. Those updates haven't been incorporated into the code. And another significant framing and advisory document is the Envision 2030, and those goals have not really been implemented into the code. So that's a broad overview of what's before you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Let's start with clarifying questions from the trustees on the aim. Just, I wanted to reiterate, I wanted to ask you something to reiterate it. So this moratorium as it's written would not affect or be a moratorium on building permits in the CBD.
That's correct, yes.
Just want to make sure everyone knows that. As well as the other things you listed. Are there other clarifying questions on this aim?
Yeah, my question is, why is this on the agenda tonight? Why are we considering it? Why is this where did this come from?
think Attorney
Um,
Madsen explained that quite clearly.
In a executive session.
No, just
Oh,
now
just
she did
now.
mention that
Okay,
it came up because an applicant in the CBD had put in for a significant lot consolidation. And it pointed to inconsistencies between the zoning code and Vision 2030 and the comp plan of 2013.
okay, fair enough.
This is Tanya. What are our goals then for ending this moratorium? What do we want to accomplish in the next, how long is this moratorium going to be for? 3
It's
months?
drafted, it's for 6 months. So if you wanted to make any changes to it, there would need to be an amendment to
Okay,
the ordinance that's before you tonight.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so
So,
this is a draft and amendments that we make, will go into a motion as
so like
amendments.
what are our intentions in the next months here? What are we looking to accomplish, and how are we going to accomplish that in the fastest way?
Not sure you're asking, but I would say I say research, I'm trying to keep it at the in the clarifying questions part of the discussion, but the research and that is a clarifying question. Researching more on some of the impacts of this for the town, and then also really bringing together some of the players maybe to be that the DDA, the PC, the BOT, and having a targeted goal of coming up with a clearer way to move towards making zoning code comp plan of 2013 and Vision 2030 more consistent, so that these inconsistencies aren't there that would possibly change
So
things.
reevaluate the criteria for these lot
That's a
joining.
I think there need to be just like other in
Is this for all lot joinings or anything that's more than just 2 lots right now, the way it's written?
Jennifer?
Well, right now, the subdivision regulations just define a process of lot consolidation. So the same process applies for joining 2 lots together or joining 10 lots together.
Gotcha. So we could, in this process of criteria, create criteria for just 2 lots that is different than the criteria required for 10 lots or some, right? That's kind of one of the things we could accomplish.
That's an option. Yes.
Logical. Yeah, because establishing criteria and making this more of a clear process is key, but it does seem like 2 lots versus 10 lots is kind of a whole different
Animal
situation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it does seem like there is a bit that needs to get clarified.
Yeah, I mean, I have concerns about tax valuation too, and so I mean, I feel like there need to be research done with the county to get a sense of how this affects expected tax income for the town and for the DDA.
Do we really need 6 months to figure that out?
Maybe not. We did talk about or I did ask some questions about can we make it shorter? It's 6 and the legal answer for it could be extended, it can be shortened, it could be ended, it can be lifted, and again we can amend it tonight and to a lesser amount of time. I think we want to make it quick. Well, we want to make it. If we were to make any new criteria and make changes to the zoning code to make things more consistent, we want to do that quickly because it is we don't want to hold things up
Okay.
too long.
What are our main concerns, and what is our process for each of those concerns to get to a resolution, and what do we reasonably think it's going to take? I go to you, Billy, or delegate to whoever you think can answer this.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I talked about a little bit was like bringing in, and I think I would like to hear all of us come in on that, maybe more so after public comment even, but I think bringing together, the planning commission, since these would affect some chapter 16 items, and the NDDA, because this is the CBD, and working with them, and I think Tanya's nails it with like establishing clearer criteria. So that's things we can do internally within town government. And then, my thinking too is that, we also need to be actively reaching out to the county and getting some clarity on something I think is important, which is tax valuation and how this could affect our town that way.
So your concern, essentially, we're looking at a whole bunch of lots, consolidated 2 lots, and your question is, would our tax revenue on the 2 consolidated be the same or greater than if they were left separate? Is that accurate?
I guess my concern is that they'd be less.
Right. Okay, gotcha.
But my question is,
Your
are they
desire.
less? Would they be less? Would they be the same, or would they be more?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's valid.
My concern is that the town could end up with, there are 9 different sections of the CBD if you break it off by street, and 10 different sections, one of which is 1 lot, another couple or 2, most of them are smaller, but like they're, this isn't like just 2 blocks that this pertains to. It pertains to these 10 different sections. And, there's a certain amount of expected tax revenue that comes from the CBD, and it's the base, 2005 base that is really, what the town gets taxation out of. And then above and beyond that, you're talking about, expected income for the NDDA, and
Yeah.
we just don't know all of a sudden if we have 10 lots versus, I don't know how many hundred, where are we at with it? Are we setting the town up to all of a sudden be in this potential tax loss that of expected income? And I don't know the answer, but I think we need time to.
In de facto, we're kind of setting policy for how we deal with the other parts of the DDA that we're not talking about tonight. It really kind of sets things up.
Something that I really wanted to point out too is that although it was brought to our attention by a particular discussion of one property owner, that this is not in any way intended to be directed towards that property owner, that it is a legislative action that applies to all properties in the CBD, all property owners. And the goal is to put in place or to evaluate whether you want to put in place any additional regulations. Perhaps after these discussions, you decide everything looks good in town code, we don't need to add anything else. That may be an option.
Are we talking about roughly, is this 50% or so of the CBD? Or is it more than that?
Oh, these lots? I don't know. I guess what I had kind of said there a minute ago is there are 10 blocks that contain, they're either completely CBD or contain properties that are in the CBD. I didn't actually take account, but these 2 blocks happen to have a significant number of lots in them compared to the others. But if someone owned the block with the mountain co-op in it and bought it up and wanted to do the same thing, I think there's like 1, 2, 3, there's like almost a dozen lots there in that block. And then, over in the Kathmandu, there's 6 lots there. So this could be about half, I'm not sure, but it's there are 10 different blocks that contain CBD property, only one of which has 1 lot in it, so that one really wouldn't count. But the other 9 could if they did some kind of consolidation, I'm curious as to how that affects both the town and the NDDA for expected tax revenue, property tax revenue.
Miranda, directing this to the town, who would have to do this research, and how long do you think it would take?
So I would work alongside Britt, who is our new community planner, to do the research. And of course, if I know that there's a desire to move quickly, and so we would make this our top priority. I'd say give us a month, at least a couple weeks to get us to our next board meeting. We could probably provide an initial update at the meeting on February 7th, because we too recognize with any moratorium, it has a huge impact on people and their desire to bring forward a land use application. And so we'd like to
Sure.
also move quickly, but also being mindful that you're doing quality work in the process. But there's no fun in creating long-term moratoriums, especially on land use applications.
But it's a great way for it to get started, isn't it?
Yeah. It'd be great if there was a BO2 member, and I'm just throwing, putting this out there, but who wanted to be the champion and kind of push on this, because we are going to involve other boards and commissions. If we do this, we would involve other boards and commissions as well as reaching outward to the county. So, a BOT member as a champion.
I wish we could nominate John Mountain, but we can't.
It's wrong. Not tonight. Well, and again, this would need, if we decide to do a moratorium, and then, then this person would be, focused on moving this along. And if we were to tighten the time frame instead of 6 months and make it shorter to get going, that we'd really be trying to move things along to get the answers we need to make a good decision, whether it's staying with things as they are or changing some zoning, changing some
I have
code.
a quick question.
Yeah.
In the event that, the 10 lots had the lot lines dissolved, would that somehow create an illegal situation with all of those buildings built on one lot versus 10 different lots?
Jennifer, because the CB does have some unique zoning compared to all the other zone districts, but Jennifer, what's your answer?
Yeah, right now there's nothing in town code that prohibits several primary buildings, primary structures on a single lot in the CBD.
Okay, so not necessarily, is what I'm hearing.
Right. Yes.
Hypothetical question: why would a property owner want to or what? I don't understand the pros and cons of going with one or two lots versus a whole bunch of separate lots. I don't know. I haven't studied this, so why would somebody want to do this?
Well, one hypothetical is that the property owner then could tear down all of the structures that exist on the property and build a brand new structure that in the CBD, there's no maximum percentage lot coverage. So essentially that structure could take the whole entire block or all of the lots that are consolidated.
Okay. And Billy, I haven't been on the planning commission before you have. Is a PUD, I don't understand how a PUD would function in a situation like this versus doing it separately. Is there something we should know as a board?
You mean whether this would fall under the category of a PUD or an SRU? I don't know. It's probably
somebody
the
who does
first answer, because it depends what gets turned in. It probably could be either of those or potentially something different, though I don't know the route to create another one of those kind of scenarios. Maybe, I guess, but I think it's too hard to answer that directly because it depends on what the actual project looks like.
Okay, got it.
Unless, Miranda, am I missing something there?
It really is going to be project specific and how it falls and what's proposed, especially from an SRU standpoint. But yeah, you can't, I guess it wouldn't be able to give you a broad answer because it's so application specific.
Okay.
Typically a PUD has, has specific yard and bulk height limitations that are different from the property, from the zoning of that property. So if they want different setbacks, different height limitations, then they file for a PUD to make them special, essentially.
Okay.
Right. You could build something, Tom, on there that's used by right. So it would require no PUD or SRU.
Okay. To make it more complicated. But in any event, our process is going to be we're adjudicating on consolidation of property or of parcels into two. And then at which point there's a number of forks in the road that a property developer needs to make his or her own decisions on how they want to proceed, and then we consider it on a case-by-case basis. So we have, it looks like, a number of decisions in front of us before any dirt gets turned.
And really the first decision for you tonight is whether to put a
Yeah.
moratorium in place. That's the
Mhm.
very first decision. And then I would suggest a smaller group getting together and evaluating the bigger issue on those next questions. But the question of a moratorium is whether you want to study this issue at all.
Yeah, what's before us tonight is, do we want a moratorium to give us the time, to then put the structure into the research and investigation, and then decide who all we bring in, be it, some of the property owners in the CBD and the DDA, PC, then we decide who we bring in to move through this. But tonight we're deciding, are we putting pause on this type of thing so that we have time, so that we can really dive into this and do it right. So we set people up in the future for a smooth process that also is consistent with the comp plan and the Vision 2030.
My hope would be that if we do put a moratorium in place, that it would be shorter than 6 months, and that any smaller group, like a subcommittee or joint committee, to work through what the review criteria might be if we were to go that route, or what any changes to the code would look like, would include the major stakeholders, which includes the property owners in the central business district to whom this applies, right? So those folks would be, I would hope, deeply involved in providing feedback to create that criteria.
Awesome.
I agree.
I do want to, these are good clarifying questions, and I'm wondering, do we feel like we're in a place where we're moving beyond clarifying questions? If you don't have any, specifically, trustees, do you have any more clarifying questions? If not, we got some folks from the public who I'm confident want to weigh in.
I'm clear.
I'm ready for public comment. Let's go ahead and move into public comment. And again, you have 3 minutes. Please identify yourself and your relationship to town.
I put my hand up. I don't know if it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ron. I can only see a small snippet. Thanks, Ron. Go ahead. I didn't see your hand.
With the speed that this has happened, I only found out about 10 o'clock this morning. I look at this as a personal attack on me. I don't know why it's come forward this way. I have 3 applications in the town. If this moratorium passes and I end up in a detrimental position to more than where I am now, I think we have a serious problem ahead of us.
Thanks, Ron. Anything else you want to say?
Yes, I'd like to have the projects that I have in process now, if you pass this, excluded from the moratorium. There's 3 of them.
Okay.
Miranda, can you fill us in?
Yeah, so Ron has 3 land use applications. I guess I can keep this going. Before the Planning Commission, 2 have been deemed ready to go for their meeting on January 25th. One is a rezone of 100 East First Street from neighborhood commercial to central business district. The other is an SRU for paid parking, which had previously gone before the Board of Trustees and Planning Commission, but Ron is seeking amendments, and because it has not been signed before the SRU agreement, it does need to run as a new application. And then Ron had submitted an application for a lot line dissolution for his parcels in the central business district in the Alpine Crossing. It was not deemed complete in time to go before the January Planning Commission. And assuming we can get all the documents ready, the goal would be to put it before the planning commission in February, if possible. But the moratorium, if passed, would impact Ron's lot line dissolution application. It would stall his ability to pursue that, as well as the paid parking, but he could continue forward with the rezone.
Okay, so it affects two of those three.
Why would it affect the paid parking?
Because the paid parking is specific to the central business district, and it's a special review use land use application.
I thought we were only doing a moratorium on lot dissolutions and.
The current moratorium is for all land use applications.
Well, maybe we can change that to be more specific.
Yeah, the way it's written is it suspends the processing of applications for, well, I'm sorry, I'm not going right to what I wanted to go to, but it's not, the suspension applies to properties located in the CBD, does not apply to business license, liquor licenses, marijuana license, and building permits.
Why can't it be more specific to the lots merging and dismerging, dissolutioning, and just leave it at that? Why is it including all these other things that don't have anything to do with what we're talking about or what we had been talking about?
Or could we write the moratorium in a way that accepts these three instances and allows them to continue on their own course?
Well, I think the third instance is the one at issue, and so it's I think that we could, correct me if I'm wrong, Attorney Madsen, could we amend this to allow for any currently completed applications that are in process to continue?
There you go.
You can definitely do that.
Because I would prefer that any application that is complete that was submitted before this point is processed as normal.
Okay, yes, you can definitely do that. And let me just explain that the reason for putting the SRU applications in the moratorium is that one of the reasons for the moratorium ordinance before you tonight is the evaluation of town zoning code related to the comprehensive plan and Envision 2030. So potentially there could be a desire to make changes to the zoning code that would have an impact on special review uses and criteria for evaluating those special review uses. That's why it was included in the moratorium. If you wanted to, a couple of options, you could exempt completed applications, or another option is you could exempt special review uses.
And I guess I do just want to offer from a special
project coming, and I'd like to ask Miranda how this would be affected. I'm working on a mixed use project for the block immediately west of Kathmandu and immediately east of the RTD lot. And this is in kind of a hurry because the town is willing to pay for the parking lot. This would also have to be an SRU because I'm proposing to cover the parking or the sidewalk because the town has a grant that will pay for the sidewalk and actually create a covered walkway to mitigate weather conditions in the wintertime for bus traffic passengers. I wonder how this would affect that. That has not been submitted yet, but it's almost ready to be submitted. I'm worried about that too. So there's really 4 projects that I feel would be caught in a bind here.
I personally would like to keep this limited to the lot dissolutions and lot joining that we had discussed and allow these SRUs to continue.
I agree with you, Tanya.
Yeah, and
I agree.
I think I agree, and also like just a reminder that the rezoning of from neighborhood commercial to CBD would not be affected even as it's written. So it's really about the 2 SRUs. But, yeah.
And I guess I do just want to. I want to just.
We are still in public comment, so I'm going to try to.
Okay.
I'm going to reel it in and move on with the public.
I still have a few seconds left.
Okay, yeah, Ron, you go ahead.
With the taxing question, the consolidation of lots in this day and age increases value pretty much under the theory that the whole is worth more than the sum of its parts. So most likely you would be and not lose any tax revenue, whatever.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I would
Gain
prefer
some.
to research that a lot deeper. But yeah, thank you. What other public comments do we have out there?
So, Billy, once we finish public comment, I'd kind of like to hear what Miranda was about to say.
Oh,
We
I'm
get there.
sorry. I mean, Miranda, if it applies to specifically Ron's comment, yeah.
I just wanted to note that there are other
Sorry.
interested parties above and beyond Ron who have desires to pursue SRUs, and one of which I believe wants to give a comment tonight. I'm not going to say who, that's for him to decide, but there are other people who have expressed interest. But your next public comment is for Christian.
Okay, Christian.
I'd like to give public comment.
Okay. That sounds good. Did you say our next public comment is from
Yeah,
Christian?
Christian had raised his hand at the same time as Ron.
Okay, Christian, go ahead, and then Kathleen, for sure.
Hi, all you guys. Nice to be here. You got me involved in town tonight. That's fun. So I'm Christian Vanek. I'm not a resident of town. I own 3 commercial lots in the central business district, which I'm investing in right now. I'm with Ron on this moratorium, which I learned about today, took me completely by surprise and caused a bit of panic with my 2 build teams. And then poor Miranda had to talk us off a cliff a little bit today about what would actually be covered and not. I would have preferred to be able to hear this in this setting, and then be able to do any research and then come back before it was voted on. It just seems a little draconian the way it was presented. That was my comment. I mean, I own bookends in Central Business District, so I'm not going to be joining any properties together. It doesn't affect me the same way. The SRU could affect me because I will need to go through that process for outdoor food and drink at the Snyder Street garage location once that's rebuilt. But the chance that it's going to be at that stage in the next 6 months is a little low. So I'm not pissed about that. From my perspective, it does sound like if you guys could narrow it, it would be great. Jennifer, you mentioned that the property owners in the central business district would be involved in this process. I'd love to know a little bit more about that. How will we be involved and when will we have the opportunity? And that's pretty much it. I mean, thanks you guys. I do think that, getting the code up to date and in line with the vision is a great idea. It really is.
Thank you so much, Christian. Nice to have you at one of these meetings. So exciting.
I agree it's a good idea, but I don't agree it's an emergency.
Next public comment. Is anyone open? Who else has a public comment on this?
I don't know if mine came through or not. I agree with Christian. It's a good idea to update things.
You already gave your.
It's an emergency.
Thank you. Thank you. Kathleen?
Kathleen Shabai. I don't like the fact that this is an emergency. I don't believe there's an emergency. I'm glad we just got to hear 2 people with property in the central business district and activity speak to it. But I think it shouldn't be an emergency. This should have been a discussion item. All of a sudden, since 2008, we're off course, and we're not even really saying we're off course. That's what's interesting about it. And then there's no reason that this moratorium is on everything. I mean, it just makes no sense to me. And anything that's in the mix made the cut. And when you go attack things that have already in the mix, it sure makes it look suspect about what's being shut down and what's not. The overall optics of it to the general public is rather disturbing. And so it does look like it's an attack on one person's property. We're sitting here talking about someone did something that triggered something, and now there's an emergency, and we need to put a moratorium immediately. But we're not allowed to talk about it. That's what I've gotten out of what I heard at tonight's meeting, and I don't know what to say. I'm against passing this at all unless, well, I'm against it. I don't believe there's any kind of an emergency. Things are cruising right along, and the people that already have applications in have met the deadline, and you will be interfering, and that's inappropriate. That's it.
Thanks, Kathleen. Appreciate it. Who else has a public comment?
I got
Andrew.
public comment. Andrew Dewart, business owner in town, not necessarily a property owner in the CBD, but just outside of it, and builder. And I can say to, just like, well, a couple things on the dissolution of lot lines, and ultimately that does benefit more larger mixed use investments, and helps modernize areas, and ultimately as far as zoning and talking about density and passing rules, I think it's okay to do those things, but I think to not I don't think a moratorium is the way to go about it, or would be helpful. Just knowing how difficult it is to move projects along and plan things, and when do you shift gears? I don't know. There's not a great time, but I don't think that burden should be put on property owners who, if they're lucky, are able to navigate the planning process as it is. And so just that it's hard enough to do all of these things and build anything, and if there's concerns, and specifically though, like I haven't heard any specifics, but like vague suggestions of just changing sections of SRU, or is a little kind of suspect for me. I don't know how much time I've got, but I'm definitely
45 seconds.
Yeah, not in support of these things, and I think there's a way to go forward and modify things. Great, but let's not penalize anybody who's working on stuff. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. Any other public comments?
David Seitz has his hand up.
David?
Hi, David here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound clear. Thank you.
Perfect. This thing is so targeted towards Ron's project that I think he should have more time to respond to it. And I'd like to give him the rest of my 2 minutes and 50 seconds.
Okay, thanks, David.
Thank you, David. I think I've made it clear that I'm very opposed to this. I feel very threatened by it. I think there's many other avenues that you have to solve any problems. And I think the speed with which this came on is very suspect.
It didn't take 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Thanks, Ron. Any other public comments? Hearing none, we will bring it back to the BOT, to the trustees for discussion.
I mean, I'll just say, I just want people to know, a lot of us are just as blindsided by this as you are. It's it's not like we've been sitting on this 2008 law and holding it in our minds and knowing that it existed, and then as soon as somebody tries to do something, we immediately try to put a stop to it. That's not at all the case. We were blindsided by this just as much as anybody else. We don't understand what impact or ramifications it has for our town, for the central business district, for the First Street corridor. We don't fully comprehend what it could possibly entail, and it is our duty as trustees to do our damnedest to set up the town for the best possible future that we can. And that might include not changing that 2008 law at all at the end of what I hope is a 3-month moratorium. But it might include making a few tweaks, and I don't think any of those tweaks are actually going to affect whether or not applications that are currently in progress, and I say in progress because they are not complete. If the application is complete, it's a different story, but it's not. So any applications that are currently being developed, I don't think they probably won't be meaningfully affected by whatever we put in place here. However, it does set us up to ensure that whenever this happens on other properties in other parts of the CBD, it's going to be done in the same correct manner that's aligned with our values as a town and all of our planning documents, which right now it simply is not. And Christian, just to respond, if you're still there, I think it might have been me that was saying that I want to make sure that we form a committee and that we open that committee up to business owners to property owners in the CBD, as well as business owners, so that we can get solid feedback from the people who have the most stake in this.
Totally appreciate it. It's just a little unnerving to see a moratorium like this when you're investing money in the town. It can be seen as a breach of trust. And we all make decisions to buy these properties based on what has been published and what is available. So I can understand Ron's perspective. Maybe it would be better just to consider this moratorium for the next meeting. It would be my thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's the nature of an emergency moratorium, and they are frequently used tools in all municipalities across Colorado and in other states. I mean, if you're buying in not knowing that emergency moratoriums happen, then that might be something that you want to look into, because it is going to happen.
Yep, totally. Now I know. I'm
So,
learning.
so yeah, and also different boards come on a regular basis. We have a lot of turnover, as you probably noticed, which has been an issue. But they're going to pass different laws, and whatever we do now, it could be completely different next year. So I mean, that's just want to make sure people are aware of that. That's how things work. Things change.
Speaking as a property owner, Eric, I find it disturbing too, because you make investments thinking that laws are fair and laws are stable, and laws are something you can make your investments based on, and that they're not turned on a whim and thrown in your face if somebody doesn't like something. So I hear what you're saying, but I have to also agree completely with the two property owners in the CBD that we're talking to tonight, and that we have, fortunately tonight, I think I'm really glad to see that we have a lot of the DDA folks, including some folks who are members and our trust and our liaison are all on board hearing this, because they're probably going to be called upon to come to have an opinion on this, at least as we adjudicate.
And I completely agree with that. But at the same time, I think all of us on this board have maligned our own code as being insufficient and often poorly written and often conflictual. So on one hand, we can't malign the code and also hold to originalism. We need to find some balance between those two, and it's difficult, but I think we have to, because yeah, one day we're saying the code is terrible and needs to be reformed. The next day we're saying we got to stick to the code. These these are conversations that go back and forth, but and it's only when the code is used that it really becomes clear when it's not working. And unfortunately, when there's people who use it, it seems like it's targeted to them. But that's in small town, the way it's just. I think it's just the way it's going to feel.
Fair enough. I hear you.
I would want to amend this moratorium to relate only to lot dissolution and joining of lots and leave the SRUs and all the other stuff out of it. Because honestly, we didn't really discuss SRUs very much in the meeting we had prior to this. I don't know why we have to put a moratorium on that. I don't see that. That's not. SRU is going through a bit of a process to get finalized. And I don't think we're trying to rewrite that process. Didn't feel like that was part of the conversation at all. And that's what I would be in favor of, a 3-month moratorium on the lot line dissolutions so that we can come up with criteria for that process and nothing else. I don't know if anyone else agrees.
I do.
No, I do too.
Why? Is there a way for us to make that motion, Attorney Mattson?
If we were to, how would you say it, Eric?
Like making a motion with an amendment. I mean, I'd like Jesse and I to talk before we get to that, but yeah.
Well, I'd like to weigh in on
Yeah,
the situation here.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jesse.
First of all, I just want to say that, I'm really appreciative of Ron and Christian both for investing in their downtown and for making efforts to improve it. And there's a lot of legal terrain to navigate. Within that, I want to encourage them to make investments in our downtown and to improve it and update it and move it forward. And, I really am doing everything I can to, I kind of by default am coming from more identification with Christian and Ron as investors in the downtown. And I'm doing everything I can to appreciate the town's legal considerations and positions here. So I'm really trying hard to get on board with this moratorium, but have yet to really be fully convinced. So, and I believe we'll need a 3/4 vote, and so you guys can still pass this without my vote or anyone else's.
No. 3/4 of the existing 6-person BOT. So 5 votes would be needed to pass an emergency ordinance.
I gotcha. So, really, I feel that, again, like many of us, this is real fast trying to row as fast as I can and catch up to speed on the ins and outs of this thing. And in my opinion, I feel that the burden of demonstrating the true emergency status of this situation is on the town, because this is brought to my attention today, and I require more time to fully appreciate this emergency. So if we were going to do a moratorium, yet I do want to weigh heavily in consideration the advice of our legal counsel and our town administrator. I just need more time. So I would be essentially at this point where what I've heard everything to this point, I could go for a moratorium that I would go ahead and vote yes for. There would be a moratorium until the next meeting. And then we would essentially, so that would be 2 weeks. And then in that 2 weeks time, I would need to be convinced that this is actually worthwhile, that we need to do a longer moratorium, so that our default status is that we're encouraging Christian and Ron to move forward with their projects and their plans, and barring some really compelling arguments for putting and calling timeout, we need to clean up our code, which is essentially what we're trying to tell these investors and developers. barring some really compelling arguments that I haven't heard yet, I'm gonna not be in favor of a moratorium. So, but I do want to give ample consideration to this emergency, and so that's why I'm saying within 2 weeks or whenever our next regularly scheduled board meeting is.
3 weeks, February 7th. Yeah.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, February 7th. Yeah.
So I may be able to go and be supportive of a 3-week moratorium. At that that next board meeting, we could extend it or drop it based on the arguments as they get presented over the next 3 weeks. That's where I'm sitting at right now.
That's a pretty.
One thing I would just point out is that it is the nature of an emergency that you don't have time.
Well, that's why 3 weeks is enough time for me to be convinced that it's an emergency.
Yeah, I agree. Eric, I'd have to agree with Jesse on this one. So where do we go?
I'd like to talk. Actually, Jesse, is there anything else you'd like to say for me?
Oh, also, I'm in support of just applying this to the lot line dissolution, as Tanya and Eric have already recommended.
Cool, and I'm glad you said that, because that's really, I think, what I would like to apply this to solely as well. I think my concern is that what could come to pass is that these monolithic properties are relotted or rezoned, that these lots all become one monolithic lot. And then if that person, with a great plan who cares about Nederland, for whatever reasons is no longer in the picture, or is, there's just a change of whatever, situation that makes it so that that person doesn't make that work on that monolithic property, then the types of organizations that can come in and purchase that monolithic property may not have them deep pockets, but may not necessarily have Nederland's best interests, aligned with theirs. They if they have the deep pockets, they probably just want them to get deeper. So they may come in and say, I can afford this monster property, and I'm gonna do what I want. I don't care about the comp plan.
This is
And
going
so
to happen
that to
within
me,
3 weeks, Billy.
yeah. So that I actually like this idea of giving us time to really consider it more. It has been freaking stressful for this to come out of left field and be like, I thought we had a marshal. I thought things were cruising for a month or so. We have no we have no police department, and this thing comes out of, it's just, I think some time to digest would be great. Because I do, I have the fear that specifically lot consolidation and what it might do in with regards to the potential for inconsistencies from the comp plan and the Vision 2030. That's my concern. But a 3-week moratorium for us to digest and I think is
what are we
a
gonna
really
do
good idea.
what are we gonna do in the 3 weeks? So it's not, we need
That's
to
a good
come up
question.
with
We're going to
something,
be
like maybe
convinced that
have
it's an
one meeting,
emergency. We're going
have
to
a
be convinced that
meeting.
it's an emergency.
Well, how are we going to
Yeah.
convince you? Are we going to have another meeting with some other stakeholders, invite the DDA, invite Nederland community to weigh in? Because my concern is also the fact that, with a lot dissolution handed to us without a plan for why or what or when something is going to be built, it seems like the cart before the horse. And I would like to see a change that specifically says for every lot dissolutions that are over 2 or 3, 3 lots that there needs to be a plan for what's going to happen, so that there is no speculation, we're all just speculating. And I don't think that for things like this in this nature, we can allow for speculation, because and so that's in the next 3 weeks. I'd like to just kind of have something in line, something in place that gets the speculation out of these lot line dissolutions. And that's what I want, what other people want. I think we need to have another meeting so that in the 3 weeks, we're not back to where we are right now, where we haven't made any progress. Jesse's not convinced. and then everything just
Well, I heard
stays
about this
as is.
earlier today, and I just don't think that's
I
reasonable.
understand, but I'm saying if we don't do anything in the next 3 weeks pertaining to this, how are you going to even, nothing's, I just feel like we need to have a plan as soon, before this next meeting where we have another, which I don't want, I'm sick of this too, another meeting where we invite, a work session, I guess we'd call it, right? Where we discuss this. Because
Well, I'm not sick of this. I'm not
I'm
not
sick of
disgruntled.
having so many work sessions and so many meetings, but I think we need to have a work session on this. And
This
anybody
is
who
really
cares
important.
should be there. That would be
There's been
invited.
a plan in town hall.
Ron, this is please, this is the trustees talking.
Anyway,
Let me
that's all I
catch
have to say. I mean, I'm fine with a 3-week moratorium, but nothing's going to happen in 3 weeks unless we have another meeting.
Well, it'll give me a
Here's
chance to
what-
talk to Jennifer.
Here's what could happen. Number one, we could have a clarification on the tax implications within 3 weeks. Number two, a plan that hasn't been filed yet could be filed within 3 weeks. Number three, people that have a point of view will have a chance to come put their reasoned opinions together and come back. This is a big decision. I don't know that we're going to have everything in 3 weeks, but I don't think we're going to be empty-handed either.
Also, we can extend our moratorium in 3 weeks' time, or if we don't agree to extend it, it'll drop, as I understand it. So that like I said, the default is that we are allowing and encouraging investment and development in our downtown. The default is not moratorium. The default is that we are working with developers to help them get their projects together and get them through. It's not their fault that we're behind the 8 ball on our code and leaving ourselves subject to some undesirable outcome in the event that, the untimely death of one of our community members that we really like and want to work with. Ron or Christian or anybody else could pass away, and all of a sudden we they're selling to whoever that doesn't work as nicely with us, and that's what we don't want to have that happen. But that can happen. It always can happen in any situation, and I'm getting off track, but I guess the other thing is we want to work in partnership with these guys, with all of our people investing in our community. And Ron and Christian both said that they think it's a good idea that we review these laws. So I want to at least review the emergency status and say, hey, time out. We got to put a pause on everything until we get this law sorted. Maybe I'm open to that being true, but I haven't been convinced tonight. So I'm not willing to vote for a 6-month moratorium or even 3-month moratorium or anything beyond just a moratorium to our next meeting, at which point in between now and then, I will talk to Jennifer, I'll talk to Billy, I'll talk to Ron, I'll talk to Miranda. I'll determine for myself if this is truly an emergency and really something that needs to be, we have to have a moratorium for 3 months or 6 months, whatever time is going to be required in order to get to the bottom of this. But if we can't, then it's going to drop the moratorium at the end of the next meeting. And also John, Mountain, and Nicole will be here at that point too.
Right. And we would need 6 of 7.
Well, I'm not convinced to put a moratorium for 6 months or even 3 months at this point, because I don't understand.
What's that, Tom? Tom?
You were talking about members, not months.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yes, Jesse, I meant in that but yeah. So we know Nicole will be there, so we'd have 6, and then if John's sworn in, then we would any kind of emergency ordinance would need 6 of 7 votes. That's what I meant. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't.
No pressure, John.
Yeah.
So I think you guys can try to convince me to change my mind, or I can go ahead and make a motion to make a moratorium for until the next meeting, and only specific to the lot line dissolution.
I'd like one thing. I think yeah, just one thing. I mean, my motivation is to protect the town and to make sure that we aren't setting the downtown up for what you just laid out. A very unexpected event happens to one of these well-meaning property owners, and all of a sudden we've got this massive property and we've set ourselves up, you know, and yes, it's speculation, but we'd be fools not to protect ourselves for things that might happen. And we'd be set, the downtown would be owned by some behemoth that doesn't care. So that's my motivation for even, being
Can
here.
I ask Ron a question?
Real quick, I actually, yeah, let's do that because mine can come back.
I'm just curious, the motivation for a lot dissolution.
Consolidations.
Yeah, sorry.
Economy of scale.
I know. Is it because why wouldn't the first step be the plans for the development?
Well, because I have to bring in other investors in, and they want to see a clean site. They don't want to see easements and encroachments and sewer lines that run across lots that they shouldn't. They don't want to see buildings that are setting across lot lines that they shouldn't. Half of the buildings on this blocks aren't actually even on the lots they're supposed to be on. It's such a mess.
I mean, my question would be, after a dissolution, when would be the timeline for the actual development of this?
Well, I interrupted, and I thank you for asking me to answer. I've had a development plan sitting on the front desk at Town Hall for 6 years. No, I can modify that. It's a concept, not a cast in stone plan, but it gives you an idea of what I think the town wants, because I held many public meetings, many charrettes, many workshops, and I took into consideration what the people wanted, and then I made the architects put a matrix in the back of the plan and explain how each one of the 6 different developments complied with all of the concept plans we have, the comprehensive plan, the design code, and that cost more than the actual renderings that are in the thing. They had to do a huge amount of research. So the matrix in the back of the thing is a very important part of the plan. So the plan has been sitting there, and with a few modifications, whatever might be required or necessary or change to current town mores, I certainly am going to be willing to do. But that's where it's at. I've passed out hundreds of copies. So there is a plan. And, maybe I can do it all at once, but I can't. And in 3 weeks, I can't say, here's the plan, let's go with it. Does that answer your question, Tanya?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it answers my question for sure. I just, my only
I'd love to show it to you personally.
Yeah.
And explain.
Ron, and you could attract investment just by having the lot lines dissolved without demoing all of downtown, correct?
That's right. The investors who would be backing me and backing that plan, it's title companies. They don't want to insure a bunch of lots that are contingent. They want to see a line around what they're doing, and that is what they want. That's what I'm striving for. And title insurance is a very important aspect of redevelopment.
Are you gathering at all where we're having hesitation though? Like
if you pass
Sure,
away,
I understand. If I drop dead, you're worried about what's going to happen. Yes. I don't think that's illegitimate. That's quite legitimate.
So, I mean, I'd love to at some point email me thoughts on how to prevent that from Anyway, I'm digressing, but I just want you to. It's not.
You must be immortal.
Attack on you. It's not. We're not trying to attack you on this at all. In fact, it's because we respect you.
The longer it takes, the better I get.
just worried
Drink carrot
about
juice, Ron.
All of us.
if the development never happens, what would happen, with those giant lots? Someone
Well,
else
you
has
have much more control than you think you do. They're still going to have somebody to negotiate. And any major investor isn't going to be the hippopotamus that you're depicting here. I have numerous offers to buy all this property right now. I'm not going to do it because everybody knows I want to see what's best for the town. And that's got to be determined. But I don't think anybody else, a developer that has half a brain, has to have the support of the community. And so they're not going to invest in unless they really think what they might propose would be accepted by the community. So that fear I understand, but I think they'd be more afraid of you than you are of them.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for asking them that, Tanya. That was a good question. Very good question. Any other comments or discussion from the trustees?
Well, just how are we going to phrase this?
If not, Jesse, yeah. I don't know if I can say. You seem to have this idea for a motion in your hand and then in your head. So you might be the one, and then Jennifer, maybe if there's any guidance along the way.
So what I would
To
suggest
that point.
is,
Actually, no, yeah, actually, I apologize. I meant to ask Jennifer's final 2 cents on this actually before. Go ahead.
so if you want to make a motion, I would suggest making a motion to approve ordinance 835 and amend it so that it does not apply to completed applications. It doesn't apply to special review uses, and limit the time period for 3 weeks to expire on, why don't you have it expiring on February 8th? And so then it would only apply to subdivision applications in the central business district. And the reason I say that to limit it to subdivision applications is it needs to be broader than just the proposed application. It needs to be bigger in scope.
But that would not include SRUs or building permits, et cetera. Just
Correct. The
subdivision
SRUs would be amended out, and completed applications would be amended out.
Are you going to be here on that meeting at the 7th? So we have legal
Unfortunately,
counsel?
I have a conflict.
And are you the only option we have from your company if we need legal counsel that day, or should we be looking at 5 weeks for sake of that, or what do you recommend as the lawyer? Because this is really I'm asking for your legal counsel before
We could have an executive session anytime, right?
I don't think we're yeah, I don't really know that we're talking about executive sessions, maybe, but I'm saying Jennifer isn't here that day. And it could be maybe.
So if we need legal counsel in the public meeting, but if we want legal counsel prior to the meeting, it could be a day before the meeting or when Jennifer doesn't have a conflict, sometime before the meeting. And we can also make a public announcement and have a special meeting. I mean, if it's an emergency.
You and I are fresh here. We got people who've been doing this since 2020. These
It's my understanding. I'm just trying to come up with solutions.
Yep. No, they're good. I appreciate it because you've been, some of your solutions we're probably going to move on. So I appreciate it. But I guess I'm wondering, is there a pro or con to putting this to the 21st versus the 7th? It's 5 weeks, which actually gives us a meeting to have it as a discussion item, with or without legal counsel. Or can someone else from your can we have someone else here get us?
I,
Or is that
I can't answer that question right now.
okay?
We have a lot of other municipalities who have meetings on Tuesday night. It's really unfortunate. But so I can't say that somebody can cover.
Okay. What would be the pros and cons of, and Jesse, you may not like this, but I'm just going to ask Jennifer of 5 weeks versus 3.
I don't know that there's any real significance between an additional 2 more weeks, but other people could have a different opinion. I think 5 weeks wouldn't be a huge burden on property owners.
It would allow us that the 7th to have a discussion on the agenda as a discussion item too.
I agree. That's logical. It gives us sufficient time, and we may have some of the answers to our big questions in that amount of time. I would just ask that staff put the pedal to the metal to get some of the answers to these questions. And that anybody in the meantime that's thinking about putting a plan together or submitting a plan formally, get it in. So it's something to consider. We won't take action on it, but it's really good to know, to remove the hypothetical and make it very practical.
Yep, that boy, you nailed it there. Yeah.
So how do you?
So Jesse,
Mayor
I
Bill, you
guess
want to put that into a motion?
I want to. I guess if Jesse, are you okay if I make the motion, and then?
Yeah,
Well,
I was just
actually,
thinking
what I'd
rather
like to
not
do
make the motion myself.
Oh yeah, you can. Yeah, okay, cool.
No, I'd rather not. I'd say.
Okay, I just want to explain it to you so we're clear. That I'd like, what I'm talking about is 5 weeks. So we have the 21st. So we have legal counsel. When we kind of get to the point of, really knowing, making a solid decision. But we would put it on the 7th as a discussion item. So we would discuss it in a public open meeting on the 7th, and then have it as an action item on the 21st. We would have put a moratorium in place for 5 weeks plus a day. So really the 22nd, because that just carries us to the day after. And we would specifically, it would be a moratorium on subdivision applications, period, not
Well,
SRUs.
it's
anything else.
technically the opposite of a subdivision. I think it's a
lot line dispute.
Right.
It's under the subdivision regulations. So it is considered a subdivision application. And the goal is not to single out one specific application.
Right. It just falls under that category. So I move, as a suggested motion, I move to approve ordinance 835, establishing a temporary moratorium on the acceptance or processing of applications or approvals or licenses for property in the central business district, including only subdivision applications for properties located in the central business district zone district, and declaring an emergency through February 22nd through February 22nd, 2023.
Okay.
Thank you. Very good.
Before anybody seconds this one, Jennifer, is there anything that needs to be changed, amended, or clarified?
I'd like to make a friendly amendment if you take it, Billy, and that is to exclude any currently completed and submitted applications.
I agree with and accept that friendly amendment that we exclude all currently completed applications.
Jennifer, any advice?
I think that's good.
Second.
Miranda, do you mind taking the roll?
Yep. Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Islet-Mile,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Trustee Severs,
yes.
Trustee Corvalon.
Yes.
The motion passes, so we have this emergency moratorium in place through this very specific emergency moratorium in place through February 22nd, 2023. And appreciate everyone's input and comments and information. We really appreciate it. What I would like to do, we have, if anyone needs a break, feel free to mute and go for it.
I've got a early flight and I'm on the East Coast. So I can't go much longer.
Yeah, I would like to move on, thank you. On this discussion item, I would like to make a motion that we move that to, it's not super urgent. So on the discussion item 8.1, I move to move this discussion item to the February 7th meeting as a discussion item.
Second.
And Miranda, roll call.
Or can I point of order?
Please.
Yep.
On that, I'm presenting on that, and if I'm not available on February 7th.
You know, the 21st would probably be better anyway, so we'll move that to February 20. I move the discussion item to February on the
21. Is the 21st going to work for you, Attorney Madsen?
Yes, I will definitely make that work.
Deal.
Okay. So I move the discussion item on the amendments in the election section of the Netherlands Municipal Code to February 21st, 2023.
And then, earlier in the discussion, Billy, we talked about.
We need to do a vote really quick, and I need a second and a vote.
Second and vote on this, and then we can, unless you're holding them up.
Okay, Mayor Billy.
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Trustee Corvalon.
Yes. Yes.
Trustee Severs.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hold.
Yes.
So, and Tom, hopefully this will, the urgent things left in our, we did want to hear from the town staff about some specific dynamics, and they too have to start moving some snow at 4 a.m. So whatever we do, I would like them to talk first. I think a lot of the other staff reports and BOT reports, we don't need to talk through. We had talked about wanting to potentially a quick executive session on the police situation at the very end would be my preference. So if that works for you, I'd like to move to hear from the utilities department specifically.
It's not the utility, it's streets and parks. So we have Mark Hall, streets manager, and Nikki Dunn, parks manager. And I guess I do just want to note they did a pretty thorough review in their staff report. So they are here to answer questions that you have. So I would ask that the Board of Trustees ask them questions versus having them recap what is in their reports.
I guess at the risk of stirring up too much, what specifically, what kind of dynamics going on with assorted agencies around snow removal, might you want to comment on, if any? I know you've been taking it on the chin, with some complaints about snow removals, or anything you can make clearer to us.
Oh, the relationship, this is Nikki Dunn, Netherlands Parks Manager, a very tired version of me, you'll have to pardon me. The relationship between CDOT and the town of Nederland had historically been fairly destroyed. And we are currently working on rebuilding that relationship to try and encourage CDOT to be more friendly toward us with their own plow policies and what they see as, kind of retaliatory plowing methods. And so I'm not sure if Mark was able to get over there today, but we have a plan to go introduce Mark to their head guy up here. And with my newfound relationship with CDOT, with my flagger courses that I took, I met a lot of good contacts, and I'm hoping to work through some of those problems that we've had with CDOT in the past to create a new relationship. And they nailed us real good over the holiday with snow, and then have made, verbal comments to me that they would try and stop doing that, and that wouldn't happen anymore. So hopefully that is true. That's about what I can say to that.
Thanks, Nikki. Mark, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think Nikki kind of hit it she has more historical knowledge as far as the relationship of CDOT and the town of Nederland previously. And I think it's a great thing that we start to kind of restore a good relationship with them moving forward. And in that way, I mean, the highways go right through the town. We want them to look good. And, the people commuting through those highways and see the town want to see the town look good as well as they're coming through. So I think it's good on behalf of both of us to do our jobs well and efficiently and kind of help each other out.
Thank you. Any other questions for these guys before they go to bed?
My big question, as always, is, we always like to know how best we can support you in what you're trying to accomplish out there and what your major pressure points are, whether it's financial, equipment wise, or in terms of personnel. So if there are top priorities that you'd like to see us get on, especially when we go, thinking about next year and what we can do better, please let us know what those are so we can incorporate those into the budget effectively.
Thank you, Eric. That means a lot to know that we have the support of the board. It helps us to know as we're doing our jobs that you guys have our backs. When we're getting trolled on Facebook, that kind of puts a damper in our day. But we are always coming. We're always there, and we've given people many different ways and opportunities to contact us. So if they have a specific problem, they should feel free to do that. And as far as, equipment and personnel, what really helped me was having the whole team come together and tackle sidewalks. And I did get some help from some citizens and business owners, and that was very helpful. It's also in our town code that they should be helping me, but, and my staff get that done. But Mark's team came out, and we were literally out there chopping and picking, and his team came out and helped get the baby tractor out of the willows when it rolled. And so our team effort, our team dynamic is working really well right now, in my opinion. So of course, yes, we can always use more equipment. Yes, we can always use more staff. But this last few weeks was really a perfect storm as far as the sidewalks went.
And I know that it's extra work for you all to do what I'm about to say, but as always, sort of a priority list is really helpful for us in terms of what has the most impact on your operation so that we can allocate funds accordingly.
Thank you. And I also wanted to really just say a thank you to Tanya. Tanya, I really appreciated you reaching out to me and emailing me directly and just, trying to find out exactly what was going on straight from the horse's mouth, not just, what was on Facebook. So I really appreciated the communication that you and I had, Tanya.
Well, thank you for all your responses. I wanted to refer to that where you were saying that RTD is the one responsible for the pile of snow by the bus stops. And I guess, again, that's a problem when you're waiting for somebody else to do something and it solidifies to concrete while you're waiting. Is there anything the town can do to pressure RTD more to be more prompt with their snow removal?
I have no idea what the answer to that would be. Potentially trying to get a hold of someone from RTD, finding out if the guy that plows their parking lot wants to hit their bus stops as
Oh, that
well.
would make sense because he's up here.
Maybe that's a solution.
Do they plow that
Yeah.
promptly or at the RTD lot? I haven't paid attention. Is that something that they hit pretty well, or they wait also on that?
Mark, do you know the answer to that?
No, I don't know the answer to that. I think it's something that we could probably reach out and establish contact with them about it, but I don't know as though it's something that we would be pressuring them about. I would
Just to
assume
have a
if we're pressuring
contact.
the RTD as well, then we kind of have to pressure everyone else around town. We'd have to go to the post office and pressure them to remove their piles of snow. I mean, it's creating a slippery slope in that way.
Yeah, I see that, but
Yeah.
but I mean,
Typically we do get to it, but this last one, we were just nailed, and we were coming. It just took us a second to get there.
yeah, no, I hear you. Okay, thank you, Nikki, so much.
Thanks for
Yeah.
thanks for the work you
Thank
guys.
you, Tammy.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Thanks
No,
so much.
just saying thanks.
Thanks so much for the work you guys do. It was good seeing you hockey rink last night, Nikki. And I'm sorry that you guys are really targets a lot, but appreciate you working as hard as you do. And yeah, prioritize the list of what you need from us is what we can ask. And one thing we can ask. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll read the other staff reports. I'd like to move us into an executive session. Do I need to read that now? Or do I wait till we make the Miranda? Do I need to make the motion now?
Looking just at guidance. You haven't done, I'm assuming yes, but.
Yes,
Attorney
you have
Lester.
to.
No,
You
I'm
have
going
to
to
make
say
a
the
motion.
language. So
Yeah.
I move to, and I'll give you time to, get us into that mode as soon as I'm done. But I move to go into executive session pursuant CRS sections 24-6-402, 4B and 4EL for a conference with legal counsel to receive legal advice related to law enforcement services, to consider and determine positions relevant to law enforcement services. I don't think this conversation will take a long time at this point. Can I have a second?
Again.
Thanks, Tom. Miranda, please take the roll.
Trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
Trustee Coombs Ismail,
Can't hear you.
yeah, Trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes.
Okay, Mayor Billy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
Trustee Severs.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead and do your magic. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.